The recent leak by a whistleblower of over 2,000 incident reports from the Nauru Immigration Detention Centre is further evidence of how barbaric and indeed illegal Australia's response to asylum seekers is. It is another call, a wake-up call, that Nauru should be shut down. The sorts of matters that are covered in the incident log are very wide-ranging, but they do include reports of physical and sexual abuse and of self-harm, and more than half of the incidents involve children. Now, apart from being evidence of the awful conditions on Nauru, it's also evidence that the authorities there are not acting to keep the place as safe as possible, are not responding properly to incidents that occur, and in fact are in the practice of downgrading incidents so they don't appear to be as bad as they really are. The response in Canberra to the so-called Nauru files has been downright dreadful. The federal government, and Minister Peter Dutton in particular, have downplayed them, said that the reports are false or of a minor nature, or just more evidence of asylum seekers self-harming as a means to get to Australia. The Australian government has even gone so far as to blame the Nauru government for any problems on Nauru, even though the Immigration Detention Centre has been set up by the Australian government, is run by the Australian government, is funded by the Australian government. As for Labor, well, things aren't much better there, because although the Labor Party has had a lot to say about the Nauru files, it is yet to change its fundamental policy, which is to continue offshore processing. So in other words, whether it be a Conservative government or a Labor government, we're still going to have offshore processing, we're still going to have Nauru, and almost certainly we're going to continue to have the sorts of problems that we see in these Nauru files. But of course, there is an alternative, and that's for the government to immediately close the camp on Nauru and to bring those asylum seekers to Australia, where their claims can be properly examined and where they can be granted permanent refuge if their claims are found to be accurate. And the government should do a few other things, like getting rid of mandatory detention, getting rid of boat towbacks to Indonesia, getting rid of temporary visas, and instead putting in place a more ethical and legal response to asylum seekers, involving a regional solution, one that's consistent with the rule of law, one that is fair to these people, almost all of whom are fleeing for their life. But for such changes to happen, we all need to keep the pressure up on the government and on the alternative government. For my part, I've requested that I be allowed to visit Nauru to see the conditions there firsthand, and I've continued to send material to the International Criminal Court in The Hague as part of my application for the court to take action against the Australian government. But more importantly, it's up to the community to do what it can. So members of the community need to meet with their local Member of Parliament or Senator. They need to ring up Talkback Radio. They need to write letters to the editor of their local paper. They need to do everything in their power to keep the pressure up on the government, because this is one of those fundamental injustices that will one day be remedied, and it will be remedied sooner if we can keep the pressure up and even build the pressure.